Assalamu alaikum and welcome back to another episode of Manifesting Muslimah. I'm your host, Zara Pedersen, and in today's episode, we're going to talk about what to do when you feel like you're missing out, and just try and understand where this feeling is coming from and how you can go about sort of easing that feeling within yourself so that you're stressing a little bit less, inshallah. I look a little bit different today. If you're watching the video, I'm wearing a red lippy. Yes, I have gone through. I can't believe that I'm like literally sitting here like I have to just like feel like I have to explain it because I never wear makeup really. Well, I used to, but I don't really anymore because I quite like my face without it also. But I also sometimes like to put on a little bit of slap and I recently went through my makeup. I've been like on the TikTok side where they do underconsumption and Project Pan. And so I was like, oh, I gotta look through my makeup because I've got quite a bit still, considering that I don't actually really wear it. And I was like, oh, look at all of these lipsticks. And it turns out I had like eight or something. Was it eight? Yeah, something like that, like different red lipsticks. And I I was a little bit shocked and appalled by myself and I was like, yeah, you need to start wearing red lipsticks. I don't mind it. I like red lipsticks on me. I just can't be bothered putting it on. So, there you go. It was a whole little hi, welcome. How are you? Okay, so that out of the way, let's get into the topic at hand because it's a really good one. And this is something that I think a lot of us can relate to when it feels like we're missing out, like we feel like we're having to catch up on our own life. And I hear this also quite a lot from a lot of you that there's this sensation of like, yeah, but like I feel like I'm running late. Like I feel like this should have been done before. I feel like everybody else has figured this out and I'm only just getting started or only just figuring it out or I only got this bit in control and the rest of it feels like I'm just swimming in chaos and I don't know, neglect or something. And so let me just first off, like straight off the bat, just say, first of all, you're not alone. I think most people, if not all people, will feel this way about some things in their lives. There will be one aspect of their life where they're like, oh, I feel like I'm a little bit late to this, or I feel like I'm not quite where everybody is at, or I'm not quite at the level of knowledge or information or whatever as my peers are. And so most people are going to feel this. But then there are some people who feel it more than others because and I, yes, I'm going to say it without certainty or proof, but just from personal experience of working with Muslim women for 10 years. I'm going to argue that Muslim women specifically feel this pressure, especially Muslim women who are sort of living in a westernized world, feel this more because you've got pressures from two different worlds at once, kind of putting putting pressure on you and excuse me, encouraging you to do a lot of that things really quickly. And so you've got sort of like the westernized world of like the independence, make a lot of money, be a badass bitch, boss, whatever. And then you also have like the culture and tradition and the religion on the other hand, asking of you to be a mother, be a wife, be a good Muslim, praying 5 times a day, doing a lot of things in that aspect. I'm sorry about the frog in my throat. I don't know where that came from. So we've got like pressure from a couple of different worlds, which can sometimes make us feel a bit more under pressure than other people might. People who may only be more attached to only one culture or a religion that everybody else also has with them, and not like this fight of like that can feel like fighting between two worlds at times. But again, this is just from my personal experiences. So if you like, just putting that out there, okay? So the first thing I will tell you is you're exactly where you're meant to be. You are not running late. You are not in a position where you have to catch up with anyone or anything. You're exactly where you're meant to be because Allah has put you in that position and Allah's timing is correct. Now, I know you've heard that before, and I know that there's a part of you that's like, well, duh, Zara, I know that. Like, that's not what I'm listening in for. But I want to say this first really quickly just putting it out there for you. Hold on to that, put it in your back pocket. We're gonna revisit this a bit later on in the episode, inshallah. But first, we're gonna talk about what can get us to feel like we're trying to catch up, like we're falling behind all the time. Okay, so the first one that I'm going to speak into is the societal pressures. And there's two types of societal pressures that we can feel. One is directly from society itself, and society putting the pressure on us by having unspoken of ways of doing things like marriage and children. You know, you should be married within this time and you should have children within this time. Clock is ticking, biological clock is ticking. You shouldn't be a mum after 35 or 40 or whatever the clock is at this point. I'm not really super into that conversation myself because I'm not interested in being a mother, so I don't know what the age is that they're telling people now, or that they're telling women specifically now. So that's the kind of societal pressure that a lot of females specifically will fall under. Also, that you need to have, you have to be an adult and have your stuff together by at least 30 if it hasn't like gone down for like 25 or something at this point now. I feel like it is creeping down quite a bit. So that means you have to have an education. You need to know what you're going to do with the rest of your life. Like there has to be that kind of clarity around your whole entire life at a very young age, which I believe comes from the educational system. We go through elementary school and then into high school or college or whatever the system is in whatever country you're in. And then you have to choose sort of like your university degree or whatever degree that you can go into afterwards that's going to set you up, quote unquote, for the rest of your life, right? Which is, like, oh, I need to be a lawyer, I need to be a veterinarian, I want to be a journalist, I want to be, I don't know, a horse masseuse. It doesn't really matter, but the point is that you have to choose, so to speak, what to do with the rest of your life at a very young age, usually probably around like 17, 16, 17, 18 years old. That's kind of where it's at, like in Denmark. And I say all the way down to 16, and I'm sure you can relate to this because in a lot of educational systems, you have to decide what kind of high school you need to take because you need to sort of set yourself up for the university degree. I don't know if that works in all countries, but that's certainly how it works in Denmark. Maybe not anymore because it's also been a while since I've gone through that system, but you have to choose like a specific direction within like even the high school the direction from there. So you have to make these decisions at a really early age. And so society is kind of telling you need to know what to do with your life. And once upon a time, this worked, It's not because they're trying to be assholes to us. It's because at one point it actually worked when we had less choice, when the only thing we could do was get an education and then go into a job and stay in that job for 40 years until we retire. That's just not the way that the world operates anymore, but we're still stuck in the same system of operation, which is in many cases very, very flawed, especially asking of a very young person, a very young mind, a developing mind still, what you want to do for the rest of your life. And then making a really big decision and then having to invest several years of your life in that decision. Which is also why a lot of people feel quite guilty when they've studied something and then they feel like, but I don't really want to do this, or I don't have the kind of passion for it that I do for something else, or I kind of want to switch subjects, but I invested time, years, maybe even work in a specific field and stuff like that, because that pressure from society is underlying there. So that could be like a societal pressure that's sort of very underlying. It's not necessarily spoken of in the same way because it is something that we just expect. It is just there and we all just kind of deal with it, and it's all over the world really. So that is one type of societal pressure. Another type of societal pressure is marriage and children. And all places will have sort of, maybe a little bit of difference in age of when it's appropriate and when it isn't. But all places have this idea of like the younger the better. So if you get married around in your 20s and probably even have children in your 20s or early 30s, you're doing it right. And everybody who does it later or don't manage to do it in their 20s or early 30s are doing something wrong. They've clearly like missed the assignment or misunderstood what the assignment's about. So that's also one, but like that'll change depending on country. But like that is the societal pressures that we're getting feeding into us. But there's also the societal pressure from our own expectation. So it's not always other people who are putting this pressure on us. Sometimes it's ourselves, because we see other people and we notice what they're doing, and we're like seeing what's going on around us, and then we expect the same for ourselves. So we can't always just take the pressure and kind of like wipe it off on somebody else and say, it's your fault, you did this to me. There is also an element of, I'm taking away from society. This is my understanding of society, and this is my understanding of my role and my responsibilities in as a person living in this society. So there is definitely also that expectation that you're putting upon yourself, even when no one's actually said anything to you. And that can come because you feel an obligation towards family, friends, the culture that you're living in, whatever it might be. But there has to be an element of understanding and recognizing that you can be putting this kind of pressure on yourself as well. And that'll make you feel like you're, under pressure to catch up, that you're lacking behind, and so on and so forth. Now, we can't talk about this without talking about social media, of course. And I really believe that the explosion of social media in the last 10 years has changed so much about our mindset around time and when we need to be, quote unquote, accomplished by. Because now we really have the world in our hands, with the iPhone and social media. We cannot escape this comparison that we can make between ourselves and everybody else, and people that we don't know, people we'll never know, people we'll never meet, right? And that's, of course, putting an immense pressure on us as well, because most people on social media, and we know this, but I'm going to continuously repeat it as well, because I think it bears repeating, because we do want to forget it a little bit in our sort of in the bias of our minds, is that a lot of people will only post the highlights. So what we're seeing when we're scrolling on social media is the highlights. We will see people's good days, we will see the polished edited versions. Look at me now. Like, take me as an example, as I'm sitting here and my hair is up in a ponytail, and I've got red lipstick on, and I know that doesn't seem like a lot, but like on a normal day, like before I sat down to record, I was like, I had my hair up in a really messy bun, because like it's an almost wash day, so it doesn't look good. And I just felt really like drab and tired today. And like, I really felt like, oh my God, the period is perioding for me, like I'm not feeling great. So I was like, okay, how can I like present myself in a better way? So I was like, okay, let me put my hair up and let me put on my jumper that I really like, instead of like just wearing, like my pajamas, which I was actually going to record in a minute ago, and put some red lipstick on. And all of a sudden I look, well, I don't know for you, probably to you this means absolutely nothing, or maybe it's like underlying messaging here is like, oh look, but Zara's sitting down and she's wearing clothes and she's recording herself, she's got the light on, she's got red lipstick on and whatever. And so the underlying message that I could be sending to you is like, but look how put together I am, even though 20 minutes ago I was still in my 90s, right? Because I wasn't feeling great. And that is the deception of social media, but it is still the image that a lot of us are going to compare ourselves with. But that'll also, of course, make us feel like we're catching up to something, because we might be like, if you're anything like me, you'll spend the majority of your days not wearing makeup and maybe in pajamas or like sweats or like, I don't know, athleisure wear, or just something that's not specifically elegant or whatever. Not to say that I'm looking elegant today or anything. It's not like that. But when we're looking at social media, we're seeing those elegant sides. We're looking at the houses that are clean. I mean, I think I've shown you in like the first episode that I recorded on Manifesting Muslim on the YouTube channel. But like, if I was just to pan around my room, sorry, I keep like turning away from the microphone. But if I was going to pan the camera around the room, you'd see that my place isn't clean necessarily. Well, no, it is clean. It's not dirty, but it's messy, it's messy. I hardly made the bed today. I kind of just threw the duvet over, and there's like clothes here that I kind of took away from the chair because I was like, I don't want you to look at my dirty bra or whatever. Like, well, it's not a dirty bra. You know what I mean? Like my bra hanging there and the jeans that I was wearing yesterday at work, and I kind of push the dog and cat bowls away from the floor behind me. And just kind of like make sure that it looks somewhat presentable before I press record. But of course, again, this is not even the real image, because I'm showing a small clip of what my place looks like, and if I was to pan the camera it would look different, and most people will do this. But when we're watching, we don't think that. We will think that what we're seeing is some type of representation of real life. And so when we're seeing these people, especially some of the younger people who are posting on social media, who live in high-rise apartment buildings, who have their own house, who have hundreds of thousands of followers, who are showing pack and order with me, like, wow, they clearly have a successful life, they have a beautiful home, people are interested in what they're saying, and their business is thriving because look, they're packing an order. So clearly that must mean that their business is thriving. Why is mine not thriving? And that's the kind of things that we're subliminally getting, told by watching stuff on social media. So it is very much another way that we're putting a lot of pressure on ourselves, and we also have a lot of control on that. So it's not just like, oh, social media is so toxic. It's also what kind of social media are you consuming, and how do you think of it? Like, what do you say to yourself after you watch it? So it's very much also, it's your own responsibility in a lot of ways also to make sure that you're consuming the right way. And then the last thing that really makes us sometimes go into this, like, oh, I feel like I'm so late. And it's so funny to me because I get this specifically from women in their 20s and early 30s. I'm specifically speaking to you if this is you, but not to say that you can't feel this in any other age range, but I get it specifically from women in their 20s and women in their early 30s, that they feel under pressure, that they feel like they're trying to catch up, that you're missing out on something, that you've missed out on the best years or something like to this effect. And it's funny because I think what you're being fed, quite a lot of you, which I think I just for some reason evaded, or maybe it hasn't hit us as much when we're a little bit in the older generation, is that old age is undervalued. And I'm not saying old age is like the elderly, like you're in your 80s or something, but I'm just saying like an older age. Anything past 30 is undervalued to be your prime. That's very much the feeling that I'm getting, is like, why not in your 30s? Why not in your early 40s? Why not in your 50s? Why not in your 60s? But it's because old age or older age is undervalued. It is not something that we value, and that we, as a society, in many cultures, place a lot of value and worth on, and as a result we have a tendency to just kind of wipe it away. It's not as good if I get it in my 40s because I'm not going to be in my 20s. No, but in your 40s you might be a lot wiser and be able to manage it better and not squander it away. You might be able to enjoy it, be more grateful for it, be in a better mindset, better head place. Same with relationships. You might know yourself better. So a lot of people are like, yeah, but I don't want to meet someone in my 40s. Like, why can't I when I'm in my 20s? Because in your 20s you're still a bumbling idiot. No offense. Take offense if you need to, actually. I'm not going to apologize if you're going to take offense to that. But you are. Even in your early 30s, some of us were still bumbling idiots. And I say some of us because I was still a bumbling idiot in my early 30s. Sometimes I'm still a bumbling idiot today, but a little bit less because I'm growing up, and growth and growing up takes time, and I'm still learning a lot of things. So it's not to say like, oh yeah, a little child. I'm not trying to undermine you in any way, but I'm just saying, enjoy the youth. Like, enjoy that youth. Enjoy figuring it out. Enjoy making mistakes. Enjoy that stuff, because you will at some point be like, now I know better. And the same can be said about relationships and the way that you value yourself, the worth you place upon yourself. It increases, subhanAllah, it increases with age. As in, you have more value, you value yourself better as you grow older, versus when you're younger, because you're still learning how to value yourself. Because it's not a question of like, yeah, but I've already had 20 years. No, you've had maybe a good 10, if that, where you've learned to value yourself. Before that, you were just a child. You didn't think of value of yourself in that way. You just took what other people gave you. And then there's a shift at some point in your 20s, usually, where you start thinking, wait a minute, hold on a minute. And for some people, they don't get that until in their 30s. This is why I'm saying, most of us, again, I'm going to put myself in there as well to make sure that you are understanding that I'm not trying to undermine you. We don't see ourselves in that way until much later on in life, and we understand that we have worth and value, and that other people shouldn't be placing that on us, which makes it easier for us to actually find and connect with people in a more meaningful way as we get older. Not to say that you can only connect with people in a meaningful way when you're older, but it's just to say there's nothing wrong with that. But again, if you're undervaluing older age, you will keep romanticizing and overvaluing and overestimating what needs to be done in your 20s and 30s potentially. Okay, so that's just a little point to put out there for you, because I do see that a lot of people do that. Okay, so now that we know sort of where it's coming from, and you might be like, oh, I get a little bit from there, but I don't really relate to this part or whatever. Now you can kind of work on, okay, where is it coming from for me? And then you can start working on that part of yourself, okay? And if you've got trouble working on that for yourself, feel free to book in with a one-on-one call with me, and we can have that conversation together, because I'm very good at helping people in those things. Yes, I said that. I will polish that halo on top of my head, because that is the one gift Allah has given me that I actually recognize. Okay, so let's talk about why you're not missing out, and why you don't need to catch up, why you're not running late, why you haven't missed out on your glory years or whatever. Because Allah's timing is perfect. Like, Allah's plan is perfect. Allah's timing is perfect. Nothing is going to happen if Allah doesn't say it is going to happen now. And I know it can be so frustrating to hear, because that doesn't remove the emotions that you have. It doesn't remove the feelings that you have. But what you can do is anchor your anxiety onto Allah. Put it onto Allah and let Allah hold on to that. And this is one thing that I have time and again said to all of my clients, the members in the membership group, that I've been trying to say on social media and everywhere here on the podcast, is stop trying to take responsibility for something that you're not responsible for, that you have no control over. And the more we try to take responsibility for things that we're not in control over, the more we're going to run our head against a wall. Because we're going to be like, but it's not happening, because Allah said it's not time yet. That's why. So it doesn't matter how much you run that head against the wall is not going to move until Allah says, now it'll move. But by then you'll have knocked yourself out, and you'll have given up and lost all hope. Because at some point you'll start bleeding. Okay, so you need to trust in Allah. It's very much the tawakkul part here, that Allah is in control of the things that He controls, which is everything. Okay, and that He's not missing you. He hasn't forgotten about you. He's not being mean to you. He's not punishing you. He's not anything. He just knows when the right time is for you. And while sometimes it feels, but it's the right time now. But Zara, I can't tell you, but like, it's now. Like, I'm so ready for marriage. I'm so ready for wealth. I'm so ready for that success. I'm so ready for this, that, and the other. I know that you feel that, but the fact is that Allah is saying not yet. So even though you feel like you're ready for it, Allah sees something else, and that's what we have to respect. We have to respect that He knows better than what we do, even when sometimes it feels like Allah is late, but He isn't. Never, ever is. So another thing is that we have to remember is that Allah inspires us to desire things, not always because He wants us to have it right then, but because He is preparing us for the future. Okay, think about this. It's not just Allah's putting a dream in you because He needs you to have it now and do it now and work on it now. It's because He's preparing you for the future that He sees for you. He sees the potential for you to do that, to be that, to accomplish that. But He's giving you the desire now so you can start working on yourself, so you can build the person in you that Allah knows you've got, that untapped potential. Start uncovering it and working on it so that you can achieve that in the future. So Allah will give you the desire, not because he wants for you to have it right now, but because he sees a future for it where you have that. Okay, so even if Allah is like giving you the desire to have children or a marriage or a successful career, that doesn't mean you have to have it now. If Allah wants you to have it, it'll come. It always comes in exactly the right time. So I want to give you a couple of things, two things from the Quran, two ayats from the Quran that I want to just remind you of, and then also a quote from Hazrat Ali, may Allah be pleased with him. So the first one is from Surah Al-Hadid, and it's ayah 22, and it says, "No calamity befalls on the earth or in yourselves, but it is inscribed in the book of decrees before we bring it into existence." Okay, so what this means, I'm going to read that one more time for you. No calamity befalls on the earth or in yourselves, but it is inscribed in the book of decrees before we bring it into existence. So what he's saying here is, what Allah is saying here is that Allah has already put it in your qadr, that this will happen. It is already in your destiny. Allah has already written it in the book of destiny for you before it happens to you. And in this example, he uses calamity, but it's also the opposite of calamity. So it's calamity, which is obviously like something, how do you describe calamity? Disaster or something. And then there's also fortune. And neither one of the two are going to happen without it being written for you in your destiny. And then it'll happen to you. Meaning it cannot he will not bring it into existence and then write it in the book of decree into your destiny, into your qadr. He will write it into your qadr and then he will bring it into existence. So you're not bringing something to Allah at any moment of time and saying, maybe Allah didn't see riches for me. Allah saw the riches for you if the riches are in the book of decree, and it will bring it to you because it is a part of your destiny. That is it. So that is from Surah Al-Hadid. The next one is, whoever works righteousness, whether male or female, while he or she is a true believer, verily, to him we will give a good life in this world with respect, contentment, and lawful provision, and we shall pay them certainly a reward in proportion to the best of what they used to do in the hereafter. That was Surah An-Nisa, ayat number 97, one more time. Whoever works righteousness, whether male or female, while he or she is a true believer, verily to him we will give a good life in this world with respect to contentment and lawful provision, and we shall pay them certainly a reward in proportion to the best of what they used to in the hereafter. So everybody will get, like everybody who's a believer, of course, which we of course know to be a Muslim, they will get that good life if of course they are also a good believer. So Allah is making a promise here, which is, don't worry, I will give to you. And this is again where we have to trust in the timing aspect of things, because he has made a promise, and the only one who won't break a promise is Allah. We will break promises to ourselves. I've said this a million times. How many times have I told myself I'm going to stop doing this or I'm going to start doing that, and I break the promise to myself the next day because I'm lazy? And you've done the same things, right? Allah is the only one who's not going to break a promise. So this is a promise from Allah, because he's not saying this just for shits and gigs. He's saying this because he means it. So whoever works righteousness, so if you're a good Muslim and you do right by Allah and other people, you will get a good life in this dunya and in the akhirah. Okay? So that is very important for us to remember, that that promise of Allah is not to be broken, and we shouldn't look down upon that promise. Okay. So every time we're questioning Allah's ability to give to us or Allah's willingness to give to us, we are questioning his promise to us. We're saying, I don't trust your promise, Ya Rabb. And, sit down and have that conversation with Allah in your dua if you need to. Okay. I wasn't trying to be, the way I said it, I felt like it felt a little snotty, but I'm not trying to be snotty when I say it. I'm trying to just be like, if you need to have that conversation and then find out with Allah what comes out for you in that conversation. That's what I hope you got that. Okay, so the last thing I want to share is a quote from Hazrat Ali alayhi salam, and that is, what is yours will find you. You will have heard this quote a million times before. There's loads of ayats also in the Quran that will say the same things around the same stuff. And Hazrat Ali also said the same, alayhi salam, is what is yours will find you, because Allah has made that promise to us. What is yours will find you. What is not will evade you. So Allah says this again in the Quran several times. We cannot stop what is meant for us, what is going to find us. We can run away, but we can never outrun it. What is not meant for us, we can literally stand in front of it and try and grab it and hold on to it, and it will never stay because it was never meant for us. So start trusting and hold faith in Allah's promises to us. There is no disappointment in that. You're not late. You don't have anything to catch up to. You're exactly where you're meant to be, and whatever is yours will always find you. All right, my darling, I hope that this episode could help you in some ways to ease some of that anxiety and stress that you might be holding on to for yourself, and learn to have that trust and faith and tawakkul in Allah that you're exactly where you're meant to be. Take that pressure off of yourself. You deserve to have a good life in this dunya and in the akhirah, inshallah. Thank you so much for listening in to another episode. I hope you'll join me in the next episode on Monday, inshallah. But until then, my darling friend, please don't forget to live in love.